it's Mal. Welcome back to the Doll Mall podcast. Today we have on such a fun and inspiring guest. I followed her for a while and I'm so excited to finally have her on the Doll Mall podcast. Today's episode is just going to be Chef's Kiss. It's going to be so perfect. I'm so excited. Today we have on Iris at the Hapa Dolls. Iris, I'm so excited to have you on today.
Thanks for having me.
So today we're going to be getting to know Iris, how she got into dolls, what's the reason behind her social media username, The Wonderful Meeting, and then we're going to be talking about American Girl books, which we haven't really discussed on the podcast before, and I'm super duper excited to discuss and highlight and just all that jazz about it. And then we might even get into the importance of representation. There's one special doll that means a really lot to Iris, and we will definitely be diving into the significance of it and possibly just how important representation is in the doll community. And yeah, I'm just super duper excited for today's episode, and I feel like without further ado, let's get this episode started with. This is one of my favorite segments because I feel like I get to know people better, and I'm always so fascinated with other people's doll stories. So Iris, how did you get into dolls?
So I got into American Girl dolls through my daughter. I'm older, so I was born in 1976. I was 10 years old in 1986 when, I guess, Pleasant Company began. But I grew up in Hawaii, and so for some reason, we didn't really have the American Girls when I was 10 years old. I don't remember them anyway, but I did play with a lot of Barbie. I taught elementary school and middle school English. I'm a teacher by profession. And so I had a lot of students that were reading the American Girl books and would talk about American Girls, and my friends' daughters all had American Girl dolls. So I was familiar with American Girl from my friends and my students. But when I had my daughter in 2011, some of my friends were like, oh, you have to get her the 2011 Girl of the Year, Kanani Akina. And back then, they would keep the Girl of the Year for only a year. And so
Yes.
I didn't know if I'd be able to get Kanani for my daughter, even though she wasn't born yet. So I ended up buying Kanani in 2011 when my daughter was not even 1 year old yet, because I told myself that if my daughter was going to have an American Girl doll, she was going to have a Hawaiian American Girl doll, because I was born and raised in Hawaii. That was it was really my daughter's American Girl doll. And I never thought, I was already, right, like a grown woman, I never thought that I would have a doll for myself. Okay, that's going to be my daughter's thing. But then I started hanging out, or my daughter started having, of course, she had friends who had American Girl dolls. And so she would hang out with her friends. So we let her open up Kanani when she was 6 years old. I know people say to wait till they're 8. But I had friends who said, no, we are letting our daughters play with theirs when they're like 6. Because she's already reading. She was old enough to read Kanani's book and understand the story of Kanani. And so she was playing with her friends. And then some of her friends' moms had their own doll too. And they're like, yeah, we have our dolls so we can play with our daughters. And being that my daughter doesn't have any sisters, she has an older brother, I was like, well, that makes sense that, if she and I are playing together, that she has an American Girl doll and I have an American Girl doll. So one of those moms actually reselling a Josefina doll. And Josefina, as many of you know, is from New Mexico. And I thought, well, this is perfect because my daughter's grandmother on her father's side, so my husband's mom, is from New Mexico and is Mexican. And I said, let's do this. I'll have Josefina, who's Mexican like you, and we'll also have Kanani, who is from Hawaii, like my side of the family. So our first 2 dolls were Kanani and Josefina because they were special to our heritage.
Oh my goodness. I love like the thought put behind it too, because when I got into American Girl dolls, there wasn't really any thought. There was just like, I just really loved the dolls, and there was no like, I guess, I mean, I loved them, but like, you know what I mean? There wasn't like relating it back
Right.
to like anything. It was
Yes.
just fun dolls.
Right. And like I said, so I grew up in the 80s. I'm actually just a few days younger than Courtney. If you think about that, like we were both born in February of 1976. And so, yes. So I think that's funny when Courtney's character came out. I'm like, oh my gosh, it's a doll that is my age. I'm like, I'm historical. Anyway, so yeah, I played with Barbies just fine. And I had blonde Barbies, even though I'm ethnically Filipino, but I was born and raised in Hawaii. So I identify with the Hawaiian culture, but I was just like any other girl in the 80s. I was playing with Barbies. It didn't matter, well, now, of course, Barbie can be anything, but back then it was very much stereotypical Barbie. And, we just played Barbies because we were girls. And it is nice that American Girl, now they have so many different, and Barbie too, but that I could find, um, dolls for my daughter.
I was going to ask you, since you kind of brought up Barbies, playing them when you
Yes.
were younger, I was kind of going to ask you what, if you still collected them, or like what other doll brands are you into besides AG?
I did have Barbies when I was a little girl, but have any of my original Barbies. My mom, we just like donated them. I don't know where they are. Through my daughter and American Girl. So we started collecting American Girl dolls, and now I do collect a few Barbies. I started working for Mattel as a retail service rep, and just being around Barbie, and other Mattel toys every day, I've been able to add that. Also, Mattel is really gracious, and they will gift us a few of the product so I can quote unquote test them and be familiar with them and play with them, so that when I am working at the retail stores and people ask me about the product, I can tell them, about the quality and the different pieces and how well they play. My kids are a little bit older now, but yeah, so I do collect American Girl and Barbie.
I love that. Oh my goodness. And the fact that you work at Mattel. Ah, iconic. I love it.
Yes, it's been fun. As I said earlier, I was a teacher for most of my professional life. And then I wanted to step back from that. And then I had the opportunity to work part time with Barbie. And it's great or with Mattel. And it's great because I have more time with my kids. And I love the flexibility that this position with Mattel allows me to have. Yeah, when I was a little girl, like I had a Cabbage Patch Kid. And
Yes.
so, yes, and I had all kinds of dolls, Polly Pocket, just all those iconic dolls.
How did you get into the doll social media world?
Okay, like I said, my daughter had Kanani and I had Josefina, and she had friends that she would play with. Okay, so honestly, we really got more into American Girl through her friends. One of her friends' moms decided to start an American Girl book club locally
Ooh, that sounds
here in
fun.
so it was like I mentioned her cousin. So it was my daughter and me, my nieces and my sister-in-law, and then it was the friend of my sister-in-law, her and her daughter. And then we all had some mutual friends just here, in our community. And so there was probably about 8 or 10. And what we ended up doing was every month, one family would pick one of the American Girl books and we would all read it. And then they would host a little party or book club. If you're familiar just with, monthly book clubs, you pick that book, everybody reads it, then you come
Mm-hmm.
together and you discuss. So we did that with our girls. And so we would read the book for that month, and then get together at whoever was hosting. And they always did something themed. So our first one was Josefina. So we ate biscochitos and we, talked about the book. Another person was decided to read Addie's book. So we would talk about the book, and then they made the cookies in the shapes of different letters representing how Addie learned how to read.
Oh
And
my
we
God.
decorated those cookies. And long story short, of course, I picked Nanea and Kanani. We ended up reading, I believe, Kanani's book for that, but we also talked about Nanea since both of those dolls are from Hawaii. And I basically hosted a luau at my house with all the Hawaiian things so that the girls, could experience that. So it was great. We did that for um, over a year with, like I said, we had about 8 to 10, and we would take turns. And so we would just pick a book and then have a little party to discuss the book and have little activities. We did Kaya's book. We did Mary Ellen's and did like a little sock hop.
Oh.
So I know we were going to talk about books a little bit later. I just was on Instagram following American Girl. Every once in a while, American Girl would post other AGIGers posts. And then it was a rabbit hole from there. And I started clicking on other American Girl accounts. We got obsessed with all the clothes and the accessories and all the sets that went with each character doll because of these books. And so, like I said, we started playing with dolls in about 2017, 2018. And I just noticed that there weren't many pictures or posts with the hashtag Nanea Mitchell or Kanani Akina. And that's when I decided I want to create my account and feature the Hapa dolls. And that's how I picked up my name, the Hapa dolls.
I love that. That's so sweet and special. And I love the book clubs. Oh my goodness. They sound like a party, like so much fun. Like
It was like a birthday party every month.
that's
Girls to just like
amazing.
you just knew and looked forward to getting together with your friends, getting to play with dolls and dress up and eat and talk about the story. Do you know what I'm saying? It was just so
Yeah.
fun. So it was exciting for the girls and the moms.
Yeah.
And
Well,
that's why, again, I got sucked back into the doll world as an adult through my daughter.
that's, oh my goodness, that's
And
just
then
amazing.
AGIG just fueled that. So
When I was little, I went to like the Barnes and Noble events. I don't know if you have a Barnes and Noble near you or if you ever
we
heard of them.
do, and I think I would see events every once in a while, but nobody was doing it consistently. So it was
Oh,
great when we found a group of friends and, the cousins, and we just all, we did it
yeah.
ourselves.
Yeah, and plus you have like a group that you know that you're going to get together with,
Yes.
because of the Barnes and Noble one, they would be like canceled or like they would be really hard to get into. Like when I was little,
Ah,
they would have like a wait list. And I was like,
yes.
okay. So now we're going to be officially getting into the American Girl books. I am like so excited to talk about this because we haven't really discussed this on the podcast before. And I feel like American Girl books doesn't really get talked about on AGIG or in the doll social media world because it's so much focus on the dolls themselves. We wouldn't have the dolls if it wasn't for the books,
Correct.
So, Iris, when did you start reading the American Girl books? I know we kind of discussed this a little bit in episode 1. Not
Right.
episode 1, the past segment.
Segment, yes. Okay, so honestly, I know I already talked about the American Girl book club that we started with my daughter. But it was actually through AGIG that I came to the conclusion that I need to read all the American Girl books. And I've actually collected all of the American Girl books. So, I, again, by trade or by profession, I'm a teacher. My degree is in English, so I'm all about reading and writing. So I'm all about children's books, middle grade books, YA books, and I taught third grade, which is prime American Girl book age. And then I also taught middle school and high school English. So books are like my life. I love all books. But as I said earlier, I didn't really grow up reading the American Girl books because I was already past that stage. And then when my daughter was born, and she started reading in 2000, 15, 16, that's when American Girl books entered our home, so to speak. How I got interested in the books. I was looking at some really cute doll posts, on American Girls IG, Instagram accounts, and back in like 2017, 2018, I feel like, well, they still do it. I feel like American Girl. Do you remember back when they would do quizzes, pop quizzes about the different characters?
Yes.
Okay, so I just remember, I love that American Girl has the historical line. And so I just remember there was one post on American Girl's IG that was talking about Rebecca. A historical question about Rebecca's time period. And somebody had commented, I'll look in the comments, like they had said, I don't know anything about history in an American Girl in that post about Rebecca. And I was like, then why are you here? Or I just felt like the American Girls are all about history, unpopular opinion. If you're only looking at the dolls and not reading their stories, then to me, that's kind of pointless. I mean, I know they have like the create your own line and the truly me lines, where it's more about the dolls and styling them, in different clothes and their hairstyles. But I believe Pleasant, she wanted it to be about the stories and the books. So, if you're buying the dolls and you're throwing away their books and you're not reading their books, I just think that's such a waste. I saw that comment about, I don't know anything about history. I was like, well, read their books. And so I said to myself, as a teacher and a mother, I want to read all of the American Girl doll books because like I said, I had never read them as a little girl. And they're great literature. And you can talk to anybody who is familiar with the American Girl books about how that's where their lore started and, how that got them into reading. They were reluctant, but when they had a story to go with a toy, with a doll, and they could live these stories or, play out these stories and just connect through the dolls' lives, not just their looks. You know what I mean? That was just so powerful to me. So the American Girl Book Club that my daughter and I were in with her friends and their moms, that was awesome to have us introducing all the characters to us. For those of you listening, I know you're familiar, or most of you, I'm guessing, are familiar with the books, but I'll just explain anyway, right? Like there's the historical line of books. And then in 2000, was it 2000 that Lindsay's story, the Girl of the Year, started?
2001, I think.
2001, yes. Yes, you're the expert. So that's when the Girl of the Year books were created. And I know, of course, like people are like, oh, I like the historical books so much better than the Girl of the Year books. They're completely two different genres. You cannot compare them. They're two different things. So, you're talking about these historical stories of, girls who went through, all kinds of hardships and perseverance. And then, of course, your Girl of the Year stories are just more modern and contemporary. And since they have them every year now, it's, they just talk about modern day times. But I still think that they're very beneficial for girls to be able to read and relate to other girls' stories.
Yeah. And plus, I would even add on to that, they even have like books for, I know they have like a certain like age kind of recommendation for their books, like 8 and up, and they might even lowered it for the historical characters. I remember reading something about that. But for the people who are just like not really there yet, they also have like books with the Willy Wishers who like are younger. And like I remember
with the illustrations.
Yes.
Oh, we love the illustrations.
And like the little golden books that feature the historical characters in them. Like
Golden
at any
books.
age, they're just
You're
great.
right.
Like you could get into them. And then if you're someone who, getting a little bit older, they have the Smart Girls guides too. That there's like one about middle school, like, and then there's like crushes and like dealing with the internet, like
Yes.
good life skills and life tips with American Girl books.
Yes, the fiction and the nonfiction. You have the historical, basically your historical fiction genre, and then you have contemporary fiction, and then you have the nonfiction with those guidebooks. And then, the picture books. And now I love that they've moved into like these graphic novels type journals. I know those got some criticism, but a lot of kids nowadays, graphic novels are what drawing them in. My kids love graphic novels, and a lot of adults read graphic novels, and so I love that American Girl is creating those types of books too.
I love how they're like branching out too, because
Yes.
like when I first got into the brand, it was just chapter books. There wasn't too many like visuals per se.
Yes.
I mean, there was pictures in the books, but like there's not like a whole like little golden books or like step into reading books, or like the Willy Wishers wasn't a thing back then. Like now it's just so kind of like across like a wide stream, broad category where really no matter what kind of type of book you're into, you can get into the books.
Yes.
I work in childcare, and they had a book fair a few weeks ago. And
I love book fairs.
Yes, I do too, honestly.
Even as an adult, yes.
Yes, they need something like that. Like the adult book fair, I would so go to. Anyways, but they come in with their little book fair bags, and they're, getting their little books out, showing me. And a lot of them, it was graphics novels that they picked up and that they really were gravitated towards too. And so I really love kind of how the American Girls kind of, I hate to say like staying relevant, but you know what I mean? Like kind of on the trend where they're keeping people interested. You know what I mean? I don't know.
For sure.
That's probably not the right word, but
no, for me, being a teacher is, we just want kids to read. We just want them to learn and open up their minds and grow and see the possibilities and learn about the world around them. So whether it's a magazine, which is what, American Girl had that magazine back in the day, and they have things on their websites now. Kids are on screens, reading and learning online. It's good that American Girl is keeping up with all of those innovations, because that's the world that we live in. And kids are reading, whether it's on a screen. I think there are American Girl audiobooks.
Yes. And I was going to mention, like, on their website, I don't know if it's the audiobooks that are free, but, like, they also have just, like, the books, like, on, like, their website for free as well, like a mobile version.
Because kids are all they have e-readers as well, so lots of kids are accessing e-readers. So, whether it's on paper or an e-book, these are all, again, getting kids to read. And I love that. I think that's so important.
And even if you don't have like a library near you or like a Barnes & Noble or bookstore, you could still take advantage of the American Girl books and access them.
Yes.
When I was little, when I first got I'm going to be honest, when I first got into American Girl books, I did not really read the books. I struggled growing up with reading as a kid.
Yeah.
I always went to like a reading teacher. And so they were really hard for me getting into them. And so I actually didn't start reading the American Girl books until I was in junior high, because I just struggled with reading, and I was embarrassed about reading too. Like having to go to like a reading teacher, and like when we did read alouds, I'd always like stutter on the words and like just get really embarrassed. So I didn't really start until junior high. But when I first opened the American Girl books, well, I would like fully start reading them until junior high, because I did start, like, I remember I did read like a couple pages of Kirsten's books and Chris's and Julie's and McKenna's, but they were just really hard for me growing up. And so when I first started reading them in junior high, I was like, oh my God, I'm missing out. Like, this is just so good. And so I feel like at any age, American Girl books are just great. And plus, like, they teach so many valuable lessons that, like, it's good to just go back and, like, kind of reread and be like, oh, yeah, like, I can speak my mind about stuff, like just different things like that. They're just so powerful. And like at any age, like you can get so much from it. American Girl books, they do teach valuable lessons. And from my reading them in junior high, I would not be the person that I am today without reading American Girl books because they are phenomenal and they're great. I think a couple key lessons that they've really taught me over the years. I struggled with bullying in school. I always got bullied, and having a American Girl character like Krissa, who got bullied as well, really like helped me kind of get through it and really connected in that way. And, I remember with Melody, standing up for what's right and like what you believe in. Like there's just so many valuable lessons that American Girl books teach. How has reading the American Girl books made you a better person?
Again, I'm a teacher. Once a teacher, always a teacher.
I love
and
that.
so these books provide insight into, you may have heard that people talk about books being windows and mirrors. And many of us are familiar maybe more with like the books being like a mirror, like, oh, I see myself in this character. Like for me, so for example, a book that would be a mirror for me is Kanani and Nanea's books, even though Nanea's is a historical one, and I didn't live in 1940s. Kanani being more contemporary, I could relate to her story more because I grew up in Hawaii, on an island, eating shave ice and dancing hula. And so that to me is a mirror, and mirrors are important because, now we need the diversity so that girls can see themselves reflected in these stories. And then books can also be windows into somebody else's life. So even though I'm not African American or, white, I can still learn about these characters through the books being like windows, and learning about Melody's story, learning about Molly's story. And, growing up in Hawaii, I honestly, so Hawaii, if people don't realize, is one of the 50 states.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, some people think that Hawaii is not a foreign country. It is not.
That's
we are the
crazy.
50th state of America.
Yes.
So when we have these Hawaiian stories, that is part of the American culture. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
We're a melting pot in America. And so, I love reading about Rebecca's story. I love reading about Julie's story, whether it's the East Coast or the West Coast, or, even Tenny's story in Nashville. We learn about all these different cultures and ethnic groups that make up America. So as a little girl growing up in Hawaii, again, Kanani's book is like a mirror because it reflected my own experience. But all these other girls' books are windows into other cultures and experiences.
I think American Girl does such a great job with it too. Because when I'm reading the books, it's like I'm actually there.
Yes.
I remember at the back of the box, like reading about this. I know it's like on Nanea's, but they have an advisory board that helps put together this character in their book, kind of like a squirrel moment, but it's kind of relates. When Nanea came out, I actually got to meet one of the advisory members of Nanea's books at American Girl Kansas City when it was open for her release, and that was just like so cool. It was so awesome. But it kind of just like put like a kind of human life aspect, like, oh, these are actual people who are actually putting in the work to make this character and their books and their collection truly accurate and amazing.
Yep, you're right. That's awesome that you got to meet someone on Nanea's advisory board.
She was so cool. I was trying to look for the picture the other day and I couldn't find it, so that's really sad. I lost the picture, but it was awesome. I really loved getting to meet her. She was so nice. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, I would love to meet some of these authors and advisory board people.
Me too.
So, to be honest, again, just me being a literature teacher, and everybody know, well, again, most people know, but when I say Valerie Tripp,
Hmm.
so she was the author of several popular American Girl books. And I mean, they're so captivating, I think, because Valerie Tripp is just such a phenomenal writer. I love
Hmm.
the books that she wrote for American Girl. And, Mary Ellen is one of the newer ones. And I remember, because Valerie Tripp, started with some of the original ones. And I remember reading Mary Ellen's book, even though she was introduced later, and I was like, this book is so good. And I looked at the cover and it said Valerie Tripp. I was like, that's why.
Yes.
That is why this book is so good. It's Valerie Tripp. It's just so cool. I love following on Instagram the authors of the American Girl stories myself.
Me too. I think Valerie would be one that I would literally cry at
Yes.
meeting because, oh my goodness, she's such an icon and like
Yeah.
getting to meet her, like I would love to meet her one day, okay? Like
Yes,
getting
me
to meet
too.
with her or even just to talk to her, you know what I mean?
Yes.
Like such a dream come true. It would literally, she would probably think I would be in so crazy, like I need help because I'd just be over there bawling. It'd be great. But
Yeah.
anyways.
Oh, and we didn't talk about, how American Girl also has the mysteries?
Yes, we need to bring up
Yes.
the mysteries. Okay,
Yeah, so
yes.
I'm looking at my collection right here because I'm in my spare room right now where I keep all my dolls and my books. And I'm looking at the mysteries and I was like, oh my gosh, I forgot about the mysteries. And I know, a lot of adult readers of mystery started, reading the American Girl mysteries, which I love because, they're very Nancy Drew like.
Mm-hmm.
And so Nancy Drew, of course, is just an iconic. And even the dolls talk about, Kits and Linnea, they love reading, and Molly, they love reading
Yes.
Nancy Drew books. And so I love that American Girl included mysteries for their characters because some of those are really excellent. If you haven't read an American Girl mystery, you need to read those.
They're great. And then they have these one books, like, I forget what they're called, but they put you in the perspective of, like, the character in the book.
Yes, it's like
the
a choose your own adventure.
Yes. They have those books as well.
My Journey. It's called My Journey. And I love that they did that for the Historica girls. So, because I loved, again, reading as a little girl. I loved those choose your own adventure books as a kid. And then I think those came out with the Be Forever dolls.
Yes, they're a little bit more newer.
Yes, but my daughter did read all the mysteries, all the books, so me being a teacher, so I just have to brag on my daughter. She's, a teenager now and she's not really playing with the dolls, but she's an avid reader. She reads like a novel a day if she can.
Oh.
And then they're not American Girl anymore because she's grown. But I know that stemmed from the book club that we did and all the American Girl books that she did read when she was younger. So her love for reading continues. And I attribute a lot of that to American Girl books, the mysteries, the graphic novels, the Smart Girls guides. She loves reading.
There's just so many good lessons and stuff that you could take away from the American Girl books. And then I got to thinking the activity books too. Like, not only do they like give that connection to your doll, but like you're also kind of learning stuff too. Like looking at my bookshelf, I have like the doll crafts, like being creative and like the doll like photo shoots. I love taking photos of my dolls or like doll hair, carrying like just so many like good character skills. And then like they just have books about the company themselves, like the celebration of the American Girl, like learning about the brand. And then they have this one of the story of America where it's like a timeline of the historical characters. And like, I remember back kind of old, like I hate to call it old, but when Pleasant Company was still happening and kind of the Mattel takeover, they had the Kits World or like the world of the historical characters where it's like a much more deeper dive into the history. Those books were phenomenal. I love those.
Yeah, and you brought up like the crafting and the hair, but they also have I bought the cookbooks, the American Girl cookbooks for
Yes!
my daughter. And that's, again, they learned how to host, they learned how to cook and just do these different themes for parties. Just I love that the American Girl books like can bring people together, and encourage girls to learn cooking skills, but also how to host, and build relationships with friends by hosting a
Yeah,
party, something like that. Crafting
absolutely.
crafting with friends,
Yeah, it's bringing people
styling with
together.
friends. It really does. It's a community. That's why I
Yeah.
like, even like we mentioned AGIG. It's a community of people and we just encourage each other. So I love that. That's how I met you, through
Oh, yes.
AGIG, and you have friends in the AGIG community. I
Yes.
have friends, and we just can talk about all these different you know things together.
Yeah.
It's life. We just do
Yeah.
life together as a community.
So for listeners who is just getting into the American Girl world, especially just getting into the American Girl books, which characters or series do you recommend them to start?
Oh my goodness.
Difficult question, I know.
That is such a hard question. I mean, I do think it depends on their age. Yeah, it just depends on their interests. Kind of like I said before, like, they can be mirrors and windows. So pick up a book, that's a window for you. Maybe you don't look like the girl on the cover, but you want to learn more about her life. So that's a window, pick up one of those. So I love that American Girl did the World by Us dolls and books and stories a couple years
I
ago.
love the Road by Us line.
Yeah, and so you had, three girls that were, different from each other, and they became friends, and, you can read about their stories. And so there's three books in that series. They kind of overlap because it's about the three girls, and they tell each of the three girls' stories. You can read them in any order.
Mm-hmm.
But I love that one and how it's relevant. And then fortunately, there are more books that provide mirrors. I love that, I'm from Hawaii and there's a Hawaiian character. I love that, Kavi was into musical theater and they created her book a couple years ago. So, I mean, I don't think there's any wrong way to start. Just there's so many, again, mirrors that can reflect and windows so you can look into, somebody else's, a different character's life. So just pick one of those.
Mm-hmm. There's also books that they haven't made into dolls, like the According to Maggie series.
Yes.
Or Agni, I can't remember her name, but there was like so many other books that they, like Emma, I know there's like a character named Emma and like she's moving or something, those books too that they haven't made into dolls as well. So even if you're not into dolls, which I'm not really sure why you would be listening to the podcast, but you know what, we're accepting. You're welcomed. But even if you're not really into dolls or you're just kind of just not really into dolls at the moment, whatever, there's still books that you can get into. We have reached the end of this episode, and this episode, oh my goodness, I just really enjoyed this. Our conversation together with Iris, and it was just so much fun getting to chat with her, getting to hear her doll story, and getting to talk about the importance of American Girl books and the importance of diversity and representation in the doll world with the American Girl Company. And so anyways, I just really enjoyed this episode. It was so much fun having Iris on. Iris, thank you so much for coming on. I really appreciate it.
I want to say thank you, Mel, for having me.
You're so welcome anytime.
We met. I think we had been following each other, but I think our brown-eyed Maneas really,
yeah,
got us talking, and then we got to meet in person.
Yes.
Well, I'm really proud of you for going around, getting to visit all the different stores and hosting events, and this podcast, and featuring so many different AGIGers and some other guests soon coming. So excited for you.
Thank you. You're going to make me cry. You're so sweet. Oh my gosh. Y'all, if you are not following Iris already, you need to do so. I will link her Instagram down in the description of this podcast so you guys can go check her out. She's amazing. Her account is one of my favorite accounts to follow on American Girl Instagram. One thing that I really love about her account is that it's so inspiring and it's so educational too because she highlights all the books. She does just an absolutely amazing job with her Instagram account. And so if you're looking for someone to follow or if you just want someone to follow already, definitely go check her out. Besides checking out Iris, you should also go check out my doll theme podcast account, which is what you're listening to. You should go give us a follow on social media. We're on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and Threads. Very fun. I literally love everything that I do with my podcast. So you should go give us some love. Go check us out. And yeah, I want to thank the listener, to you who is listening to this podcast episode right now. Thank you so much for listening. I really hope that you enjoyed it and you were inspired to do something with your dolls. Yeah, thank you just so much for all your love and support regarding my podcast. I really appreciate it. So bye, everyone. Thank you so much for listening. I hope you have a great night, great day, whenever. Until I talk to you next.